Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is 6:30 p.m. I will call the Tuesday, August 3rd meeting of the Superior Common Council to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilor Ledeen. Here. Councilor Van Sickle. Councilor Bender.
Here.
Councilor Sweeney. Here. Councilor Fennessy. Here. Councilor Elm. Here. Councilor Ludwig. Here. Councilor Sutherland.
Here.
Councilor Kern. Here. And Councilor Grasky. Here.
We have a quorum.
Item number 4 is approval of the minutes from the July 20th regular council meeting.
Motion to approve.
The motion is by Councilor Ludwig, second by Councilor Elm. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, so no. The motion carries.
Item 4.1 is a presentation from Assessor Terry Johnson relating to the duties and revaluation.
And Councilor Van Sickle has asked to introduce the assessor.
Yep, thank you, Mayor Payne. Just a couple of words on behalf of President Elm and myself. And thank you to Terry Johnson for being with us here tonight. We have had a really deliberate conversation around getting to know municipal operations better and the people that make those worlds go round. So it's not to be patronizing in any way to the department heads or the council, but to make an intentional opportunity to learn more about, like I said, our city and the people that make it happen. So similar to the TIF presentation that we had about a month or so ago, this will be ongoing and regular, and the point is to have an educated, informed council, because sometimes there are departments that we don't always interface with or get to know. So this transition seems like a really good time to ask Terry to come visit us, and he prepared a presentation for us. I don't know if I could, off the top of my head, give a bullet point about what you do, but hopefully by the end of this we all can. So again, you'll see more organizations and directors and whatnot visit us a lot this year. So I hope it's helpful, and if you're ready, thank you, Terry.
Thank you, councilors and mayors, for the opportunity to be here. It is one of those things that we try to be behind the scenes. As I told the mayor when we give our things for the upcoming year, we had a camel mash. We like to be in the background, hidden. But the basic work that we do is to value and classify all the properties within the city of Superior only. So those are that's our boundaries of what we do, and that involves the real estate, which is what they term real property, the land, the buildings, and everything that's on it. And then the state in Wisconsin has personal property, which would include things like mobile homes in city-approved parks, things like furniture, fixtures, and equipment, which would be normally in some type of a business, improvements on leased property, which is publicly owned. All the hangars that you might see over at the airport, those are taxable. And then there are other businesses that are on publicly owned property that are leased as well, so those are all taxable. The idea behind it is that they're not having a competitive advantage over another business when they are, on leased land versus something they own themselves. So hopefully those are equally and fairly assessed as all the other similar businesses. And then we also do some things with tenant improvements on leased or rented properties as well. The only thing that we really don't do in the city of Duluth, or Superior, I came from the city of Duluth, so you'll forgive me there. Exception is that the state does the manufacturing of classified real estate and personal property. So the state is responsible for all of those properties, which would include some things like the refinery, maybe some of the manufacturing businesses around town, and that would include the personal property within those. They come up with the value of those. We can, if need be, make an argument if we look at those values and say, hey, that maybe it should be adjusted, but sometimes they're doing their own valuation method for those types of things. And all this stuff is covered in the Wisconsin state statutes under Chapter 70 and also further defined in the Wisconsin Property Assessment Manual, all of which, you know, the statutes are in the Wisconsin State Statutes. The Property Assessment Manual is available on Department of Revenue website. Now, a typical assessor has two jobs. The two major services they provide is preparing the assessment roll, which is the value of all the properties, granting exemptions, filing reports to the Department of Revenue, and monitoring the assessment performance, which is basically our sales ratio of all the properties they're selling for this price, but here's our value. The second is to discover and classify and value other properties that may be out there that we don't know. So that maybe there's somebody did a split or something was missed or something like that. Sometimes things go from exempt to taxable, a lot of different scenarios. We're all guided by the same professional standards and practices, and the state has licensure requirements for certain levels of assessors, level 1, level 2, level 3. I'm a level 2 right now, and only the first class cities are required to have a level 3. So the third service we provide, which is not typical for an assessor, we are the property lister for all properties within the city of Superior. And what a property lister does is we get the splits. Somebody has a parcel and they want to split it off, or they combine them, okay, or they might do a whole plat or something like that. We have to review those legal descriptions, make sure they're accurate, and then make creation of new parcels or consolidate parcels or any of those types of changes. That's all within the city. Then we turn them over to Douglas County, who has their own property lister for the entire county. So we have myself as a staff, Colin Payton's their property appraiser, and the support staff is Lisa and Rachel. Currently, what we're doing is we're reviewing all the building permits that have been issued over the past 2020, trying to get those numbers as of January 1, which is our assessment date. We're looking at reviewing and verifying all the sales that occurred last year, and we're doing other property listing work. And at this time, we're actually getting ready to wrap up our what we call assessment year, which is the board of review, September 9th. And in that review, we're sending out notices to anybody that has had a value change, increase, decrease, or whatever, classification change, all those types of things. So we also do other things like a monthly report for the mobile home park managers, changes on ownership of those mobile homes. We provide that monthly report both to the clerk's office and to the park managers. We also do other work, including with Director Cirk, for TIF projections. We work with building information for the building inspection office and many other departments, whoever might need something. I've worked extensively sometimes with the inspectors in the fire department as well. So when they go to a property, I'm looking at it for value purposes, they're looking at it for code and other different things. So everybody's got their role of what they're doing there. I also feel it's important that we interact with the other folks out here, whether it be realtors, appraisers, the Business Improvement District, the Chamber of Commerce, and any other groups around Superior that, you know, dealing with real estate. So why we do these things is simply to provide an equal and fair assessment for all properties within the city of Superior. So that's in general what we do right now. So I don't know if anybody has any questions at this point, and otherwise I'll go into a little bit of what a revaluation would entail.
Well, why don't we do questions at the end?
Okay.
Mr. Johnson.
So in a revaluation, what we're doing is we're going to take and review all of the properties and the property information on every property record here within the city. We're going to take and look at and review some of these land areas and compare it to the GIS mapping, make sure we have the right connections with parcel numbers and all of that, and value them together. Sometimes there's some changes in ownership may occur because the recorder's office is doing some of those things. And we're going to look at them the same way as a fee appraiser would do. The difference is we're doing it to value all the properties here, which is called mass appraiser, and they're doing it generally for some type of mortgages or disputes or something like that. So they're doing it for a specific date, when their assignment comes to them, they're doing a one-on-one appraisal with that property. We're doing it to try to get a group of properties that are similarly valued and kind of do like a ranking overall based on the sales of properties that have sold. Okay? So when we're doing a mass appraisal revalue like that, what we're going to do is we're going to notify the public that, hey, we're going to come out and we're going to take a look at these properties. There's many different approaches you can take to it. You can do a certain area, or you can do a certain type of buildings, residential, commercial, or whatever. Or, as the state's asking us to do, they want us to do the entire city all at one time. Now, with 2 staff members, that's a little bit difficult task. So my plan would be to do a revalue probably over the next 2 to 3 years. We're going to try to go into different areas and collect the information. Once we get that information on those properties, then we will, as I say, pull the pin and reset all the values based on what we've seen in the sales, set up our sales model and everything else, do the data analysis. We're going to go look at all the land properties, the land building properties. We're going to do inspections as we need. We will send out some inquiries for financial information from commercial properties as well. And we'll try to develop a market survey, if you will, of what properties are, because it's all based on the market of what properties are selling and what properties are typically leasing or renting for, that type of stuff. That's probably the most difficult thing, is to get commercial information. So everything is based on the market. So we're going to do it based on the presentation I figured for January, maybe 2024 is when we would try to get it done by. But it could be whatever year we choose. So you got to realize that the sales we're looking at are for everything that's prior year, 2 or 3 years beforehand. And when we hit the value reset, basically that is now looking at the historical data. We're not staying up with the current, today's market it's not like last year. It's even the last 2 years have been pretty good, but this year's even better. So we're going to take and analyze that data, and the 3 approaches that we have available would be the sales comparison approach, which is mostly used, an income approach, which is used typically on your commercial type income properties or things like that. And the other method is the cost method, which sometimes you have to use that for unique properties which there are no sales, larger commercial type buildings or things like that. So we create a sales model where we compare all of the adjustments that we might have for bedrooms, bathrooms, finished basements, unfinished basements, conditions and qualities and ages and locations and everything. So it's not something you can just do real quickly. It's actually pretty comprehensive. And we're looking at open market transactions where we can tell that they are what your typical buyer and seller would buy. So there's some of these things people are buying to flip them or rehab them and turn them over. And when we get all that done with the sales comparison model, after we've collected all this sales data and looked at all these properties, then we got to go ahead and start establishing the values on these properties based on that sales model. And that will be done for all the properties, and we're going to do that comparison. We're going to review all those values. And sometimes there are outliers, we call them, that are on one extreme or the other, where you cannot understand why they would sell for that or why they didn't sell for more or whatever it is. So we kind of throw those out. So we get all the numbers done. We're going to send a value notice at least 30 days prior to the board of review. That's when you do a revalue. We're required by law to do that. All these things I talk about are required by law. We're going to have that open book period start basically 30 days before the board of review, where people can come in, call us, we'll go look at them, review some properties, make some changes. Oh, I didn't notice that, or oh, I didn't realize that you had that issue with the basement, or things like that, or there's things that can be changed. Then we'll go to the board of review, which is for those that may not agree with our assessment of the value. They will provide us with some evidence. We will provide them with evidence of what we have to support it. And then the panel, which is independent and approved by the city council, it's up to them to make their decision. So when we are all done with all of that process, then we turn it over to and do a municipal assessment report, which is turned into the Department of Revenue for their review and approval, because they're reviewing all of this. That's probably one of the key things I didn't mention here earlier, is that we do verify all the sales, but the Department of Revenue then in turn also compiles their list of all the sales and does their own sales ratio analysis and looks at where our assessment is. And that's where they look at currently. 2020, we were at just below 90%. This year, I think we're trending closer towards 85% or maybe even less than that. So now what that is just telling us is that the market is appreciating every year for what properties are selling in comparison to our value. So once we get the municipal assessment report turned over to the Department of Revenue, all that stuff, we also have the assessment roll, which is turned over to the city clerk's office, who then turns it over to the county, who does the property tax calculations on the properties based on our value distribution, whether for the appropriate city, county, school, VOTEC taxes, and everything else. And at that point, our assessment cycle is pretty much completed. So, beginning of the year, we're turning in, we got to have by January of next year, all the sales completed for 2021. We got to have dates that the Department of Revenue sets up for all these deadlines that we have to meet. By the first Friday, I believe it is, in February, we have to have all the sales done. And we have a preliminary municipal assessment report, which is due by June, and then we do the final one, which is required to be turned in, I think it's by October, in October. So we're always getting audited and monitored by the Department of Revenue. So they're a big part of what we have to answer to as well, not only the public here, but the Department of Revenue. So, and basically we're starting our assessment cycle January 1st, 2022, which is what we will, after the Board of Review, start hitting the field and looking at all the permits, verifying all the sales, and a bunch of other changes that may have occurred during the year. So that's pretty much the whole assessment cycle. So,
thank you, Mr. Johnson. I want to thank you for coming. Part of why I hope this is going to be valuable, one of the more significant and complex questions, counselors, you're likely to face in our budget cycle is the subject of the revaluation. That is a expensive and complex question, and so whether you have questions tonight or come up with questions afterwards, I'd encourage you to continue these conversations with the assessor to make sure you fully understand that process. But are there questions for the assessor now? Councilor Fennessy.
I do have just a couple questions. So when we do a massive reappraisal like this, is it based home by home, or is it more of a blanket? We feel that overall we're 5% less, and so we're just going to bump everybody's up 5%, or is it truly home by home?
in the PDF that I sent to you folks, there was 4 options for doing a revalue. A full revaluation is what I had kind of estimated from other people that have actually done them, is 600 to 700,000. That requires people coming in and doing full inspections on the interior, and then also having that contracted out where they would come in, they'd have to find a place to stay, and then they're on the streets all the time. Whereas if you did an exterior inspection, exterior revalue, you're just doing it from the exterior on most of the properties. Market adjustment would be where you would look at certain segments of the market, which I think is kind of where you're talking about. Maybe we have a certain style of homes that's selling for more, or a certain neighborhood that is selling for more. So we may make some adjustments to our model. We're not going to change the model when we do the revalue. So we may make an adjustment if there's something that would indicate, statistically that we should adjust this whatever factor it is that you're looking at.
Okay. And do you have any indication, just kind of in the time that you've been here, how do you feel our property values are off? And if so, do you have any indication, or would you rather wait until like this whole process is done?
Well, I have a sense that there are some inequities of things that need to be done. It's been many years since a revalue has been done, and for more specifics, we can talk on that one-on-one about that. But overall, the market has been going pretty aggressively the last 2 years prior. It's almost 8 to 9% the previous 2019 and 2020 from what we've been able to tell. And we have no indications of what it is, but I think it's going to be even more for 2021. So that's one of the biggest things is resetting that baseline, if you will, on valuation. We're seeing sales without any changes coming in anywhere between 75 to 85% of what they're being valued at. So our model needs to be updated.
Okay. And then the last question I have is, as you indicated there, there's been we've slowly seen the home values in Superior keep rising, and some have predicted that we're at the peak and we're going to go down. How does that, if we do this in 2022, and the values of the homes kind of fall back in line a little bit, but you're looking at data from 2019 and 2021, or 2020 and 2021, when we've seen home sales higher than we've ever seen before. How does that come into play?
Well, the first thing is that equalization of the property value, so everybody is on the same basis, okay? So, for example, today, if I were to take and double all the values, that's not going to change your property taxes at all, really.
Right.
So the equalization is the key to that. So if we did see a market decline, then we would adjust the entire model for the city of Superior and make an adjustment on all the values equally downward. I mean, the nice thing about it is we kind of put it in segments, which is kind of like based on certain areas and then neighborhoods within those areas, so we can make adjustments based on what we're seeing in certain areas, or maybe for a certain type of property, anything like that. So there is ways to adjust the model, but once we set that model, it's either you adjust that model or you redo the whole model, and right now it needs to be redone.
Sure. No, this has been good. Appreciate your time.
Councilor Sweeney.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. Does the state dictate to us the percentage of valuation, if you would? It cannot go lower or higher?
The requirement from the state is we are supposed to be within 10% of 100% value. And the requirement is once every 5 years, you have to be in compliance. If we're not in compliance in year 4, they're going to give you a warning. If you're not in the year 5, they're going to say you need to do it, or they will come and do it. And if the state were to do a revalue, you have no appealing their values. It's out of your control. So we like to keep that local control as much as possible, because we can respond directly more to property owners and on an equal basis. And when you're setting up a model, you're trying to make it so it's equal and fair. I keep stressing, for everybody. So some people say assessors are bad people. No, we're just trying to be fair to everybody.
But did I hear you say that we may be dropping to 80-some% of?
Well, currently they're selling it, in that
Selling,
range.
okay.
They're selling. That means our assessment level overall, based on what has sold in relation to our value, we're low.
Okay, thank you. There was a controversy perhaps a year ago about the dark stores. Has that gone away now?
No, it hasn't.
Okay.
But that's something that we're not impacted by a whole lot at this point. And I've been prepared, having worked with the city of Duluth and St. Louis County, for those arguments, because I was on the tax court committee for our organization over in Minnesota, and I was handling all those tax court cases with St. Louis County as well as the city of Duluth, and fully aware of what those arguments are.
So it's still an open and live debate?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things that it's a difference of opinion on how you value a property.
Sure.
So if you want to get into more detail on that, we can certainly sit and chat about that too.
Okay. And my last question is, you said you take all property. I'm assuming that's non-taxable properties too, right? Real property?
We are looking at all the properties which are taxable at this point.
Huh.
What we review the exempt to make sure that there's no changes in that exemption. You know, we'll go by and look at them, but typically those are the churches, the 501c3s that have been approved and things like that, and publicly owned properties. That's the majority of them.
Right, but that doesn't go into the total assessment, right?
No, they do not.
Okay. Do you have a total record or an individual record of what those 401c3s or whatever would equal in the city of Superior?
We do not have a value on them.
Oh,
Okay, so with that, no, I don't have a value.
okay. Thank you.
Counselor Kern.
Yeah, Terry, I want to thank you for giving us a presentation today. Like you said, your job isn't always the most glamorous, but I know what you do behind the scenes and the integral part that you play within our city. I'm glad that you stressed the word equalization. Once we start talking about reassessing houses and properties, I think it gets a lot of our citizens kind of on edge. We've seen kind of what happened across the bridge, but I would like to see that, you know, maybe you can explain. I know our past assessor used the analogy of a silo, that our budget stays within our budget and we're only allowed to assess properties up to a certain taxable levy, that silo is not going to change. It's the equalization of it. So I just want to make sure that anyone who might be watching today or might hear the word assessment and get triggered by it and understand that, yeah, your taxes might go up, they might go down, but we're trying to create it fair throughout all citizens in the city of Superior. So thank you for using that word and kind of explaining that. Maybe you can elaborate on the silo effect if you're aware of what I'm saying.
Sure. It's basically it's only a certain height, so all you're doing is making an adjustment to those individual layers, you might say, in that silo. The other analogy I would use is if you're squeezing a balloon. That balloon is the same size, it's got the same amount of air, but if you squeeze one and reduce those values, the other ones are going to obviously get a little bigger. So either one, whichever way. I like pie, so I like to use examples of a pie. And if you got 10 pies, 10 pieces of a pie, and you got 10 people, you give them a tenth. If you double that, now you've got half the taxes if you can get. That's what we want to expand the tax base to help reduce that tax pressure on everybody. So, silos, pie.
Further questions? Counselor Van Sickle.
I just wanted to say that if there aren't any, I know you don't expect us to be experts in this, but I think it's our responsibility to have a clue what you do. This was really helpful, and I just want to remind you to keep us in mind when, in how best this council can support you in your work and how we can best support the people that we represent. So thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Sure.
Just want to put one final call if there are any other questions. I will also thank you, Mr. Johnson, for coming. You're always welcome here.
Yes, thank you. Very well done.
All right, item 6.1 is the mayor's report.
So, thank you. It's been a very busy couple of weeks. We are fully underway with the general fund budget. We have not started on the capital budgets yet, but if you've ever seen what the offices look like upstairs this time of year, it's pretty chaotic, but we're in the thick of it. We are still on track to be presenting by the first Tuesday in September, and my goal is still to present all of the budgets that we presented last year. I hope to also be presenting a proposed ARPA budget at that point, but I wanted to let you know that I'll probably be advising a little bit more deliberation to slow down with that budget. We do have time to allocate that, but general fund, CIP, and surplus will be presented on the 1st of September. Mr. Raverty put a sticky note on my desk, the surplus. I don't have the number memorized yet, but it's over 1.5 million. Just today, we've started, or this week, we've started diving into the new federal infrastructure bill. If you're following the news, it's politics, so take it all with a grain of salt, but There does appear to be an agreement in the United States Senate for a bipartisan significant infrastructure bill for the whole country, but there are a lot of great things in that proposed bill for local communities, especially Superior. Some of the things exciting me the most, and I expect this list to grow, tremendous funding for Great Lakes restoration and rehabilitation to the point that we could complete the area of concern and be done with all St. Louis River and shoreline cleanup within Lake Superior. Significant transportation money for the whole country, but quite a bit that would help fund and influence a lot of the work that we are doing on all of our transportation projects, including eliminating a lot of bureaucracy, and finally, even more money for broadband projects, significantly more money for broadband projects. So right now that bill is looking really great, and I hate to say it, I expect it to pass. And so on a similar timeline, within a couple of weeks and months, the city of Superior could be looking at even more federal money. That is my report, unless there are questions.
Item 6.22 are committee appointments. The mayor is appointing Dr. Saqib Mahmood to the redevelopment authority of the city of Superior, Deanna Erickson to the Wisconsin Point Committee, Jerry Mannion to the Assessment Board of Review, Jeff Longnecker and Donna Bergman to the Civil Service Commission, Nick Nelson to the Community Development Block Grant Advisory Board, Mary Clun to the Library Board, and Chad Matujak to the Claims Committee. Somebody.
Motion's by Councilor Elm, second by Councilor Fennessy. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries.
Standing committees, 7.1 is a special finance committee recommendations from the July 27th meeting.
Chair Sweeney.
Thank you, Mayor. We did have a special meeting. The festival committee, as it relates to the finance committee and to the city council, is a little bit of a work in progress, and so we had a meeting to straighten out some things, and I think we did some good work there. Basically, what we've done, we've given authority to the festival committee. It must then, a certain dollar figure must from there go to the city council. If it's a larger amount, it must then go to finance and then on to the city council. So we've ironed those things out. I think we've got it clear. I think everybody's clear. There may be some little oil in the ointment, if you would, but I think we made some great progress. So if there's any questions, I'll try and answer them, but that's and then we it's very straight. A lady came from the festival committee and was very informative, helped us, and I think we helped her to where we're going. So that's my report.
Are there questions for the chair? What then is the pleasure of the council on the business of the finance committee?
Motion to approve.
Motions by Councilor Ludwig, second by Councilor Bender. Is there discussion? Councilor Kern.
I'd like the record or the minutes to reflect that I'm abstaining from item number 1, line item C.
The motion is to approve them all, Councilor Kern. Do you mind abstaining from all of them, or would you like that separate?
That'll be fine.
Mayor Payne, I'll be abstaining from all of them as well.
Thank you. The motion is to approve all of the business of the Finance Committee. The minutes will reflect the abstentions of Councilors Kern and Sutherland. Is there further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries.
7.2 is the Human Resources Committee recommendations from July 19th. Report from the chair.
Chair Ludwig.
Thank you, Mayor. The items are meeting from July 17th. We approved, oh, sorry, my computer just shut off on me. We approved the request to fill a commercial building inspector part-time, and that is due to, the vacancy is due to a resignation. We approved reorganization of the finance department. Items included updating the accountant job description, updating the staff accountant job description, and then Our accountant position will be retiring September 15th, so we approved filling the accountant and the staff accountant positions in-house, and then approved hiring temporary part-time clerk. We also approved the telecommuting policy and telecommuting acknowledgement form. We approved adding Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day as a paid city holiday. I do want to add that it was a split vote with Councilor Sweeney voting no on that. We approved updating the non-union employee handbook to delete obsolete language, to update proper pronoun usage. And I believe that are all of the items. I move to approve all the recommendations of the Human Resource Committee.
The motion is to approve all of the business of the Human Resource Committee. Is there a second? Second. So the motion is by Councilor Ludwig, second by Councilor Ledeen. Discussion. Councilor Fennessy.
We're only approving items 1 and 2, right?
Yes.
Okay.
There are only 2 items.
Right, yeah. Just there's a lot that... The only reason I ask is because there was a lot that seemed like she talked about that wasn't...
I understand. The Human Resource Committee conducts a lot of administrative work on behalf of the committee, so a large amount of their business, amending certain job descriptions for existing employees, most of the things she described don't go to council.
Okay, yep. Thanks for the clarification.
Discussion on the motion then. Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed say no. The motion carries.
Item 8 are the special committee reports. 8.1 is Communications and Information Technology Committee from July 26th. And I believe there's a presentation regarding the broadband master plan. Recommendation to approve.
Well, it won't be a presentation per se, but first I'll call for, Councilor, you are the chair of the CIT. Do you have a report?
That's correct. I'm not going to say too much here because what happened in the committee is what's going to be essentially presented and discussed here. But basically at this CIT committee meeting, Entry Point had brought us updates on the master broadband plan that they've been working on for us, and that's what's coming up here next for approval. So over the past few months, the city had listening tours both virtually and in person. They were well attended, and we heard thoughts and comments from the citizens and what that means to Superior. Overwhelmingly, we heard support for this, and they were well attended. A community input gathered was put in this broadband plan, so this is some of the changes as well as some ARPA funding options. So this plan, it's been several years in the making, and I'm really excited to see where we are today. Director Shea also gave us some updates from the IT department, all the happenings from running cables to the city's payroll software and how that's moving along. So in the committee, I thanked them for the job well done on those projects as well. So that's essentially what I have for the update, so we'll just move along to the next item here.
I was just going to ask the representatives from Entry Point to give a very brief explanation of the differences between this final plan and the draft plan that was previously presented to council. What has changed? I believe Jeff Christensen is on the line for that.
Great. Can you hear me, Mayor?
Yes.
I apologize. I'm not there in person. My flight was delayed, then canceled. So the 3 changes in this version of the broadband plan cover what Councilor Elm just spoke to, which was an update on the listening tour, which included anchor institutions in the city and the public itself. I think you represented well the outcome there. I think the findings from that closely mirror the survey results. That's anecdotal, but I think that's accurate. As far as the ARPA funding, we provide text on the FAQs that came out from Treasury relative to the use of ARPA funds for broadband projects. You can read that. I think in numerous ways, the city can tap ARPA funds based on the FAQs. We don't have the final rules, but based on the FAQ guidance, that's a reasonable conclusion, and we detail that in our summary. And then we have next steps. So the broadband plan is not, it's not a either or, black and white. It's not a dichotomy. This is an iterative process, and receiving the broadband plan, accepting it, is one more step forward. And so the next steps detail what our guidance would be in terms of going forward. Let me make one more comment about the infrastructure bill, which the mayor referenced. It is our firm belief that cities that approach the infrastructure bill saying, if you give us money, then we will do a project, that's a misguided approach. We believe the cities that will be able to tap that money are cities that are in motion, that have good projects primarily, that have thoughtful projects, that have been working on this initiative and can articulate both a reason for the project and a plan for the project. So I think it's an important thing as you think about the broadband plan and as you think about the opportunities that are coming from federal grants.
Thank you. And I'd actually stay on the line in case councilors have questions about the report, but what is your pleasure on approval of the report?
This is the time to ask questions, Mayor, about the report.
Well, I'd like to get it on the floor first. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second. The motion is by Councilor Elm, the second by Councilor Ledeen. Now you may ask questions.
All right.
Councilor Elm.
All right, thank you. Just over an hour before our council meeting started, we have received an email from Charter Communications, also known as Spectrum, and I just, for the record, I wanted to read it out loud here, maybe go through some of the questions to address this in advance. So it says, Dear members of the Superior Common Council, in advance of your scheduled vote on a broadband master plan, I think it's important to set the record straight regarding many inconsistencies and factual errors that were presented to you recently, so that you have all the facts before making an informed decision. The so-called market analysis from Entry Point regarding Charter Communications Spectrum is not only misleading, but also incredibly inaccurate. So here are a few of the inaccurate conclusions that they have presented to the Common Council. So what I'd like to do is just continue on with some of these questions and have Entry Point answer them. So one of the first questions is, the analysis states Spectrum imposes data caps on residential and business customers. This is simply not true. You can verify this on our Spectrum website as well as a third-party website. I know that personally, I have looking into this, Spectrum had been part of a petition that they withdrew in January to look into imposing data caps. They've also have an acceptable use policy on their website, so if there is over usages that they can throttle and slow users down. So in theory, even though there is no data cap, they can impact your performance if it's deemed abusive. So I just wanted to, that first question, if Jeff or Devin could give a little bit more insight on that.
I think with each of these questions from Charter, I think the right response is Superior hired Entry Point to provide accurate data. And it's critical that the report have integrity and that there's accuracy in all the findings. So what I would propose that we do is that we provide a written response to, we just received this. I received it about 45 minutes before the meeting. I would propose that we provide a written response to the council on each of these claims. So these claims all come from footnotes in that section. They're not remotely close to the core claims that are in the market analysis. There's 6 footnotes. They're essentially contesting 3 of the 6 footnotes. So my preference is that we respond with data and to each of these. And if entry point was inaccurate, we will acknowledge the inaccuracy. But I think a written communication is going to be the most helpful for the accuracy of the report.
Certainly. Yeah, because certainly I find a number of inaccuracies in what they have sent us as well. And just the opportunity for this to be a public meeting. For years, they've had opportunity to mention this in the past, and it's disappointing to me that we received this email just a couple hours before council. I absolutely would like a response to this. So. Some of this not requiring contracts for the residential and business customers. That's not true for their fiber customers. They do have term limits to install it. They mentioned they have a free modem, but they do charge for those who need Wi-Fi. Yeah, so it mentions how you guys are not accurately verifying simple facts, but I question the facts that they sent us.
Yeah, I think the key thing for the council, so again, it's important that the report is accurate. That's critical. But I think it's really important to refocus. I think this is somewhat of a distraction from the core findings of the report. The core findings are that the city can meaningfully lower the costs and dramatically increase speed and reliability. They don't contest that. They don't contest that we think the city can deliver gig services for $55 and their stated fees for gig services are $130. So I think that the council should focus on what they're not contesting. We cite a report from Deloitte that says all legacy infrastructure should be replaced with fiber optics. That's a key finding in the report. They're not contesting that. Their core infrastructure is coaxial cable. So I think it's important to be accurate, but I think it's also important that we don't allow minor footnotes to become the core claims of the report. And I think this is a little bit of an effort to distract from the core findings.
The one question I had about, directly for entry point is it Jeff? Is that?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, Jeff, you had mentioned that you believe that we're able to use the ARPA funds for this as part of that project. Can you explain that a little bit? Because the way that I understand it, it's clearly defined that we can only use ARPA funds for areas that don't have access to 25 megs service or higher. And when you look at the map, it's like 99% of homes in Superior meet that criteria. So we really wouldn't be able to use many ARPA funds.
Yeah, so I'd encourage you to review the text that we provided in the updated report. So there's two things that you need to parse. One is the interim rules that came out from Treasury. And those interim rules, what you're suggesting is correct. If you read those interim rules, then it looks like it would be a stretch to use ARPA funds for broadband. If those were followed up with FAQs, and in the FAQs, it's clear. So one thing that becomes clear there is that areas that are served with DSL, sort of in layman's term, I'm saying they're obsoleting DSL, the copper media. But they also clearly say that they understand that the city probably cannot build a project around, it's not sustainable to replace DSL with fiber, and you're probably not going to have enough customer base to have a sustainable network. And so the FAQs say that the cities will be allowed to develop a sustainable project. to solve that kind of specific problem. So that's one example that we cite in the report of the ways in which the city can, without, I mean, that's not a stretch, that's explicit in the FAQs, that guidance. So that's one example.
Okay, so you're basing that on the FAQs, not the actual ruling?
There isn't a ruling yet. We don't have final rules. We had interim rules, which then there was a lot of pushback on Treasury about the interim rules, because what the Biden administration initially was saying is that you can use this money for three things other than COVID: water, sewer, broadband. That was the initial guidance. Then the interim rules came out, and it looked as if somebody got to Treasury and influenced those rules. And so the interim rules did really walk back the use of the money for broadband. But then FAQs subsequently came out, which clarified the interpretation of the interim rules. So the FAQs were after the interim rules. We're now waiting for the final rules, but it's the FAQs, which are the latest data we have from Treasury, and it's that information that we based our recommendations to the city.
Okay, no, thank you. Do we have any idea when the final rule?
The final rule, I mean, it could be any day, but there's no clear indication. It's not going to be much longer, within a couple of days or weeks, but the final rule is it's the final product of all of them. So the interim rule was the rule. People could apply it, and then the FAQs clarified it. And so those documents will be the basic informing document of the final rule. There may be some new changes, but it's not likely to undo anything that came before. We went through this process just as well with the routes to recovery funds.
With the what?
We had routes to recovery. There were coronavirus relief funds last year. And so we went through a very complex process. The initial rule was somewhat confusing and very restrictive. One very clear example, last year, the initial rule said expressly that we could not use it on, for example, public safety hours. Then the FAQs clarified, oh, sure you can. And then the final rule stayed with the FAQs. So the initial rule is just like a first crack at it to invite feedback. The FAQs clarified the position of the president and the administration. The final rule is just, well, it's the final rule.
Okay. Thanks, Jeff. I just had more of a question, just kind of procedural. What exactly does that mean to approve this master plan?
It's similar to every other comprehensive or strategic plan we've adopted. It can mean anything from, it depends what policies exist in it. In this case, there are no real policies dictated. So I don't want to say that it means nothing at all, because it does mean something. It means that the council supports the construction of an open access fiber network with a lot of these terms. But remember, this report has a lot of options in it, so it doesn't really bind anybody to anything. I'm choosing my words very carefully, because if the council adopts this, we would by no means put it on the shelf. This would trigger the administration to get to work building this plan. The actual construction of the plan is many, many votes. It is putting things out to bid, it is creating funds, it is hiring staff. So there's a lot of work yet to do. This sets a direction for the city, just like any other plan.
So wouldn't there be more where there's no like set direction really? Wouldn't it be more in order just to receive and file this and use it as a reference? Yeah, I look back at like the last consultant we hired, RW Management. We didn't approve that plan. We received and filed, and then we took it and we dissected it, and we referenced it and we used it.
The difference between that and this, and it might sound like splitting hairs, but that was a consultant's report with recommendations to be implemented. This is a master plan. So this sounds to me much more like the comprehensive outdoor rec plan, active transportation plan, city comprehensive plan, where we have adopted those.
Approve. Okay. Yeah. That was all I had. Thanks.
Councilor Sweeney.
My concern is that whether this be charter, whether this information is accurate or not, I think we have to look at it, and I'm recommending we go slow. But at what point in time, I'm concerned about costs, of course, and I'm thinking seriously, perhaps not today, of recommending an outside source to go through these costs for the whole plan. Costs and investment. And so this may not be the time to do that. I just want to be assured that I will get an opportunity to bring this up.
In fact, in a private conversation, Entry Point also recommended a project management consultant to effectively hire somebody to then guide us through the process in advance of us hiring permanent staff. I believe they recommended that be put out to bid, so that we could decide the scope of what we wanted to do rather than just rely on them, whether they bid or not. So yes, you would have that opportunity to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, can I comment, Mayor?
Yes, if there's no objection. I think that's Jeff Christensen.
Yeah, so that's an important suggestion and comment. So we are not an engineering firm, and the engineering firm, as you get to the point where you're moving, you're going to do an RFP for design and engineering, and as part of that work, they would also produce feasibility data, which would be a professional engineering firm doing exactly what you recommended, which is they would do their own analysis on the numbers, and then it would either corroborate or contest the numbers. But that's a natural part of the next steps in this process. So it's an important point and included in the recommendation in the next steps.
Councilor Kern.
Yeah.
I want to commend the CIP committee for all the due diligence that they have done on this. We've got quite the package, the public input. There's a lot of things that kind of stand out to me as far as this report. We started talking about ARPA funds and where we're going to spend them, and the potential of the liability that the city might have and the taxpayers that live in there. It's such a large project. I think undoubtedly, I think it's been discussed before, the largest project that's probably been undertaken by the city of Superior. And there is, a need to have adequate connectability to all citizens that live in Superior. But I just have some, hesitation as far as not moving forward. I'm fine with that if we're going to move forward, and we have the opportunity that you explained to Councilor Sweeney to come back and reevaluate where we're at. I like the fact that we're going to possibly have an outside consultant come in and look at the numbers, verify, make sure that we have all the I's dotted and the T's crossed. But we're living in a city that has, I believe, major infrastructure issues that we need to continually invest in. And I think one of the hiccups I have is the overall cost of this project and the possibility of taking those ARPA funds with the uncertainty, knowing if we can even use those funds at this point. So I don't want to get in the way of moving it. I represent a district that has probably the greatest need for connectability, especially out in the Billings Drive area, and the phone calls I've gotten for or against. But we really need to look at this overall project to make sure that we're doing the right thing, and I'm glad we're doing that right now. But I want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence and making sure that everything is done and done in accordance, and making sure that we're not going to be hung with a large amount of money that's owed on a project that might not come to fruition. So, thank you.
Councilor Fennessy.
I just have one more quick question for Jeff. How long do you think it would take to be able to, I guess, respond to these 7 or 8 items from Charter?
We could do it within a week.
Okay. So then, I'm sure we all want to make sure that the data is correct in this. So I move that we table this until the next meeting to allow Entry Point to verify the data and make sure that it's correct in the final report.
Motion is by Councilor Fennessy, second by Councilor Kern to postpone to the next council meeting. Discussion on the motion to postpone. Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.
No.
I will take a roll call on the motion is to postpone.
Councilor Fennessy.
Yes.
Councilor Elm.
Yes.
Councilor Ludwig.
No.
Councilor Sutherland.
Yes.
Councilor Kern.
Yes.
Councilor Grasky.
Yes.
Counselor Ledeen?
No.
Counselor Van Sickle? No. Counselor Bender?
No.
Counselor Sweeney?
Yes.
6-4.
That's 6-4.
The motion is 6-4 and carries to postpone to the next meeting.
The next item is the special committee report from the Police and Fire Commission from their July 14th meeting.
We have no business from Police and Fire, Urban Forestry Tree Board, or Parks and Recreation Commission. Would any of those chairs like to give a report? Councilor Kern is chair of the Parks and Recreation Commission.
One comment I just want to make. I believe the agenda might reflect July 19th, when I think that meeting was the 22nd. I could be wrong.
If that's incorrect, we'll note it in the minutes.
Thank you. I just want to give a quick update. Unfortunately, last Parks and Rec meeting, we were unable to have it due to a lack of quorum, so we were able to get back to business during the month of July. Just a couple of quick notes that we talked about the Brent sponsorship program. The commission had a long, deliberate conversation. I want to thank the Parks and Rec Commission and the director and Jody for putting together a sponsorship package. We decided to kind of hold off on that to get a little bit more data and understanding about what we're doing, but I think we're on the right direction with that. We also discussed a clear mission statement of what the Parks and Rec Department and the Commission is doing. We also had a great conversation about Cargill Park. Thank you, Councilor Van Sickle, for bringing this to our attention. I think we got some work to do out in that area, and those conversations are going to get started, and I really look forward to seeing to where the public input is going to come in on that. We've got a great update from the summer program. Things are going on schedule. Program's being used like it always has. It's still being very popular, and some of the changes pre-pandemic and post-pandemic and where we are today, the program's still lasting strong. Adopt the program, Jody's done a great job at going out and getting new sponsors. And then I'd also like to give a shout out to Henry Campbell for the trail route on the municipal trail. He's done a great job as a senior project, moving this project forward. Many, many hours of blood, sweat, and tears, and a lot of volunteer hours to get the first leg opened. And we're very excited to look at what he can do for leg 2 of it. So that is all I have to report.
Councilor Ludwig is representing the Urban Forestry Tree Board.
Our Urban Forestry Tree Board met on July 15th, and we discussed the tribute tree program. And for those of you who aren't aware, our tribute tree program has been in existence since 2002, almost 20 years. And so one of the things that we updated the application to include choice of species trees, to include in the price now in the past the plaque that you see at the foot of a lot of the tribute trees was an option for an additional fee, and we updated that now to the fee to include the plaque. The application also includes clear information for the donor to include clear information for both the donor and recipient certificates. Also discussed were ideas for promoting the tribute tree program, ways to get information out to the public that the tribute tree program does exist. Other items discussed were our spruce tree in City Center Park. It is now reaching the end of its life. If you look at the tree in the park, it has a split top, and so every time it storms, there's kind of the possibility, of it coming down, and so eventually, we want to, I guess, first of all, because it is the holiday tree, have the public aware that it's reaching the end of its life, and we want to take care of it before it does become a hazard. But of course, we want to, the last couple of years, and we did make a motion actually to to make 2022 the last holiday lighting of the tree. And so one of the recommendations was to make it into some type of a celebration of the tree. And maybe ideas were floated around to, when the tree does come down, maybe hiring a company to make ornaments from the tree or slices from the tree, you know, with some type of a logo that citizens could purchase. And then, of course, planning ahead for a replacement tree. You know, one of the things that was shared with us from our city crew is that, you know, they do a fantastic job of decorating that tree every year, but it takes loads of time. If you look at that tree, there are a lot of spaces in that tree, so they have been adding extra branches, you know, to make it look really nice for us for the holiday season. But of course, it all takes time to set up and then take down again. And so that is something we want to make the citizens aware of, that, you know, that's coming in the future, and so that it doesn't come as a surprise. And we also want to, of course, include them in the taking down and replacing of the tree. The other thing is RFPs for the Superior Municipal Forest Master Plan were due on July 27th. I believe only one consultant replied to the application. Is it Ayers out of Eau Claire? And I believe that an interview took place today. I'm afraid that I wasn't able to attend because of time constraints, and I haven't gotten a report on that. So that is it as far as my report for the Urban Forestry Tree Board.
Thank you. Are there any questions for any of the chairs? We can move on to old business.
Item 9.1, Finance Director Putz is submitting amendment to the Billings Park Civic Center lease agreement. This was postponed from the July 20th council meeting.
What is your pleasure on the agreement?
Most to approve. Second.
The motion is by Councilor Bender, the second by Councilor Sutherland. Mr. Baker of the Billings Park Civic Center is here, but are there questions or is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Item 10.1, I am recommending approval of miscellaneous licenses.
Most to approve.
Motion is by Councilor Fennessy, second by Councilor Kern. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
I'm recommending approval of referral of claim number 2111 to the Liability Claims Committee.
The motion is by Councilor Fennessy, second by Councilor Elm. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
I'm recommending approval of an original Class B liquor and beer license for Superior Bowling Center, LLC, doing business at Superior Lanes, 1914 Broadway Street. Jeff McCaffrey, agent for the license period September 1st, 2021 through June, that should be 30th, 2022.
Motion to approve.
The motion is by Councilor Sutherland, second by Councilor Kern. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Item 10.4, Planning Director Sirk and City Attorney Pearl are recommending approval of the improvements easement agreement for 2222 East 5th Street, an agreement between the City of Superior, Wisconsin, and trustees for the William E. and Nari G. Stack Revocable Trust.
Motion is by Councilor Fennessy, second by Councilor Bender. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries.
Item 10.5 is an ordinance amending the traffic code, accessible parking zones, by adding 1108 Lincoln Street on both sides.
Most to approve.
Motion is by Councilor Ludwig, second by Councilor Bender. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries. Councilors, I believe we have a comment, we have public comment. So, turn on the mic, please. So we have not had this since I have been mayor. So I just want to go over the rules briefly. The public is allowed to come and speak at our meetings, very similarly to how they speak to agendized items. It works substantially the same way. They are allowed to speak on any subject they like to the council, but the rules are the same. Members of the public are limited to 3 minutes in length and no more, and I would ask the council to join me in enforcing that rule on general comment. And personal attacks are also prohibited. City ordinance doesn't describe what that means, but for the sake of the public, generally the best way to interpret that, I believe, is the same way that Robert's Rules of Order interprets that, and it simply means don't address anybody both here in person or anywhere else by name. You may discuss institutions or offices as you like. So do we have a list? I believe Mr. Carlos, I think you were first. So 3 minutes, please, sir. And please state your name and address.
My name is Mark Carlos. I live at 1600 Catlin Avenue, Superior, Wisconsin, 54880. Yes, I'd like to know, I read in the Star Tribune that Mr. Carell, who's the CEO of Target, made $141 million. So now I'm wondering what the city council is going to do with all the improvements that they made for Target. Now Target has left. Is anybody go back and try and get any of those funds that the state and the city approved for all of those improvements for them? 2, in the Eau Claire paper, for the first time ever, I saw Tony Evers, our governor, sign a bill about mental health services being expanded. So I'm wondering what this city is doing to obtain some of these fundings, because when I went to the meeting where the governor and the lieutenant governor were at the University of Wisconsin Superior for a meeting, most of the discussion I heard was about mental health services, which there are very few in this county. So the mayor was talking about this infrastructure bill and how excited he was. Well, I'm wondering how excited he is about mental health services in this community, which are very lacking. Okay. 3, I just want to state, and I'm not going to personally attack anybody, but I'm extremely disappointed with a couple people. Names will remain nameless. When you're attacking me, when you're basically calling me a liar in my own church, and I'm extremely disappointed in a counselor who, when I brought a concern, never called me back on it, but went ahead and supposedly discussed it with people that are in this government. And 4, I don't want to name counselor, but when I went to the Nemadji Golf Course advisory meeting, which I was...
30 seconds, please, sir. 30 seconds.
Okay, well, just hold on there, Mr. Mayor. Why Mr. Sweeney thanked me. He's the only one that thanked me for coming to the meeting. And I'm curious as to why Mr. Sweeney thanked me. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other business from the public? Seeing none, we have no further business and are adjourned. Thank you.